This channel is for educational purposes only. Make sure you do your own due diligence before making any investments. And there is inherent risk in trading, so it's speculative. Just make sure you keep that in mind. Hi, this is Joe Rabil with Invest Like a Pro. Going to talk about Fibonacci retracements today. And I want to show how I use that as a confirming tool, as an extra piece of evidence that you're in the right zone to buy a pullback. One of the things that I think is important to recognize is the Fibonacci tool can actually be used as a trend device. It can tell you if you're in a strong trend and if that trend is being maintained or not. As I go through this example, I think it'll make a lot more sense. I'm going to use NVIDIA for our stock today. And what I want to start with is I'm going to start with the bottom here. And I'm going to work my way up. And I'm going to show you as time goes on how you want to use this tool as confirming evidence at the moving averages. And we've talked about the moving averages a lot. What I like to do is build a case that I've got a pretty strong area of support. So if I'm pulling back to the moving average, I like it to be at either the 318 or the 50% retracement. Every now and again, we'll get a retracement of 618, but for the most part, when you're in a good trend, the retracement's going to be either at the 382 or the 0.5. So I'm just going to start, and I'm going to start at the low. And so this first move to the upside was right here, ended right at this on this bar right there, and then pulled back. And if you notice, if we zero in a little bit, the pullback was right at that green line, which is the 382, the 38% retracement. So you had the initial thrust off the low, you pulled back right near the 18 on the daily chart, and that happened to be right at the 38% retracement. So that is really good confirming evidence. And if you notice, it was the 38% was just slightly above the 18. So if you're sitting there waiting for it to pull back to the 18, you know, there's chances there where you're not going to get that full pullback. In a lot of cases, it has to do with the fact that the Fibonacci level is holding. So it's really good to be able to draw these in and know for a fact that you are hitting one of these levels. This is a very widely used tool. I mean, a lot of traders in all different market environments, all different styles, they all use Fibonacci levels. They typically stick with this zone, the 382, the 0.5, and the 618. There are times where they'll use some of the others, but they're not as widely used. I think if you know this zone between the 382 and the 618, I think you're going to be, you know, you're going to have the ability to see kind of what most traders are looking at. So again, I like to use it in conjunction with the moving average environment. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use this low, which was the pullback low, as the new bottom, and then we're going to look at the next rally and pullback. And what we're doing when we do it this way, so now I'm going to draw this in and use that. And if you notice, this time it pulled back right to the 50% retracement, almost to the penny. You can see it was very, very close to that level, which is more like a reddish line, a pink line that it pulled back to. So and just as another piece of information, when you're in a strong trend, you don't typically close below the 50%. You can come down to the 618 on an inner bar basis, and then by the end kind of come back and close near the 50% retracement. But it's pretty rare to have a close below the 50% and still be in a pretty significant uptrend. So again, this is really good evidence because if you notice the 50% retracement right here on that bar is right at the 18 MA. And then, so what we're going to do now is we're going to use this low and determine the next pullback. And so we go from here. Now I'm going to start from this level and I'm going to look at this pullback. Now, this penetrated the 38% retracement and didn't quite make it to the to 50% retracement. So that's a really strong sign that the trend is still in pretty good shape. Now, if you wanted to use the next low, so if you wanted to use this bottom, there's nothing wrong with doing that. And if you notice, if you do that, it comes right to the 50% line. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with overlaying these and using two separate bottoms and seeing whether you're getting kind of a price zone. Sometimes the one will give you a 382 and the other will give you a 50%. And that just kind of builds confidence that there's pretty strong support there. If we start with this low, and so what I'm doing when I do it this way, when I'm using the fib this way, it's kind of confirming that the trend is still strong and I can keep buying pullbacks. And the first time I do this, and I get a penetration of the 618, I know that pullback is probably, you know, unless we're in a really violent market decline phase, I'm probably not interested in playing this anymore because you're losing upside momentum if you break the 618, even on an intraday basis. So let's go to the next level, and I've got this bottom now, and we're going to go up to the next area, which was here. And if you notice, that pullback was just barely didn't make it to the 618. If we use the last low before it took off and drew in the fib level, that comes back to the 50% retracement on both those pullbacks. So again, I'm getting like overlapping levels that are showing that how strong that area is, right where it pulled back to, which was very close to the 18 on the first pullback, and on the second pullback, it was in between the 18 and the 40, and both lines were rising. So again, we're getting a little bit more detail as to how far these will pull back if we start to use the fibs this way, again, as confirming evidence. Let's go to the next level. I can use this pullback. They're basically the same, those two lows, and I'm going to draw up to the next rally and pull back. And again, it held the 382, didn't quite make it to the 18. This is really good evidence to know that, yes, you're holding the 38% retracement in this run. You do want to look at volume. You do want to look at ADX. You do want to look at MACD. I'm not saying not to do that, but this is another piece of evidence to show you how strong this zone of support is when you can get confirmation. And then if we go to the next point, you know, you can draw this in this way. And if you notice what happened, we overran not only the 38% retracement and the 50% retracement, but we overran the 61. And so this is what I was saying earlier. Once this happens and we get a pretty decent overrun, I usually, if I see it overrun the 618 by, you know, 5 to 10 cents, it depends on the stock price. But if it overruns by, in this case, maybe 25 cents or more, then I know that the momentum is switching. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you're reversing the trend to the downside. But what's taking place is the strength of this trend going up is really, it's lost the upside momentum, and you're probably going to go through some form of a consolidation. And so sometimes when the 18 and the 40 are still rising, you're getting a little bit more evidence by throwing this fib grid on and seeing whether the last pullback is holding the 618 grid. And so in this case, it didn't. And if you notice what happened, since that time, we've been going sideways. So it's really, now it's a type of situation where, like I talked about with the low ADX pattern, now we're kind of drawing trend lines in and we're waiting for a new breakout to develop. Once that breakout kicks in, then we could start to maybe set up new fib grids as we move. Right now, the fib grids really aren't offering us anything because we're going sideways. We need a benchmark low and then a new high and then a pullback to draw in a fib retracement level. So that's how I use these. I think this is a pretty powerful tool. It seems pretty simple, but by adding in these fib grids, it tells you if the retracement is within that zone, that key zone between 382 and 618, that you're still in a pretty solid trend and you can keep buying pullbacks. Hope this was helpful. Again, I'm going to be adding in a couple of other different videos related to ADX and MACD in the coming weeks. So hit that subscribe button and give me a like. I appreciate it if you can do that. All right. Thank you.